Today we're joined with Paul Martinez, who's an assistant principal at a local high school in the Valley. And we're going to talk about Section 504 and special education. And basically, what new teachers need to know about these topics. Paul, how's it going?
Well, okay.
Cool. Well, so I'm a new teacher at your school, and
Okay.
you're over special education in 504, or you've been
hmm
over that. What are some of the things that I need to know?
Okay. Well, first of all, special ed. When you get certified as a special ed teacher, they go through over all the laws and procedures that govern special education.
Okay.
504, not really. So it's actually sort of learn on the job, but the administrator that's in charge of 504 sort of guides you or tells you that the accommodations that need to be followed under 504. And by you signing, and the administrator has a signature page that you sign, that you're aware of that, and that you need to follow through with the accommodations. That's 504. Special ed, as a special ed teacher, well, you're already being groomed with all the special ed laws that govern it. You take a test on that and get certified in that, and that sort of prepares you when you go out there and become a teacher.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's say someone didn't go through a good program. What are some of the special ed? What are some of the things about special education that you see coming up on a daily basis, or every once in a while?
Well, the teachers got to know who the special ed students are, and they do get a list of through the programs that they have, Eduphoria, maybe Great Speed, accommodations that the teacher must follow
Okay.
in order for the student to be successful,
What happens if they don't follow these?
or they can get in trouble.
And who monitors?
Well, there's a special ed administrator on each campus. Our campus is mine, which also we have like a special ed director that's in charge of the whole district. We've got special ed supervisors, we got diagnosticians, and we have a list, that serve the special ed students, we have a list of the students, and we sort of monitor them on a weekly, 3-weekly, bi-weekly basis, every 6 weeks. That's special ed.
That's special education. And can anyone have access to this list?
No, only the teachers that are being served by the teachers.
Okay, so only the teachers that actually have
Yeah,
the
yeah, the
students.
teachers that
can-
have the students.
Okay, and what is it important that a general education teacher go to a ARD meeting?
It is important because not only that, I mean, sometimes we do invite or we do get regular teachers' input on how the student is doing, and like I said, the teachers do have a list of accommodations and modifications they need to follow.
How can someone qualify for 504 but not qualify for special education?
Well, and 504 is more a civil rights, act, if you will, and someone that might have a broken arm. I mean, he's going to need accommodations if he's a right-hander and has a broken arm. Well, he's going to need accommodations, as far as turning in the work and him filling out to complete the assignments. Right there's a good example of, you're 504 for a little bit, but then you're not really going to go into special ed.
No.
Okay. Another one would be, like, I know in the past, like if you had a learning disability and it's known and you got to go through a process. The first process, teachers try doing something, all that is documented by the 504 person that's in charge of the campus. And if we see he or she is still not being successful, then he's referred to 504 to see if he qualifies. And we get grades, we get teachers' input, and that sort of information. And then we come up with the 504 accommodations, which is different from modifications, and we'll see if the student is still being successful. If not, then the last thing is referring to special ed. But if you're considered a slow learner, or you're labeled a slow learner, I mean, you do qualify for 504, but not special ed.
Okay. Now you said accommodations but not modifications. So you have to be in special education to receive modifications.
Yes. And in 504, it's mostly accommodation. Well, it's just accommodations, no modifications. You cannot shorten the test. You cannot shorten the instruction or the curriculum. Whereas in special ed, you can.
How do you handle behavior issues with special education?
Well, all of us that dealt with special ed as a special ed teacher, as an administrator, all administrators are aware of this. Uh, Special ed students, there's a 10-day rule that you can only suspend them 3 days, up to 10 days in 1 year, or ISS up to 10 days. Or if they do an infraction to place them at the alternative center, then after 10 days, you have to have an ARD.
Okay. And ISS, that's in-school suspension?
Yeah, in-school suspension,
In-school
yes.
suspension. Do you see that happening a lot, that students are suspended for longer than 10 days in special education?
No, because we keep, most schools keep a close monitor on that. For example, at our school, what we do, we have the homeroom teachers that are given a list of how many students are in charge of, and the administrator that's in the discipline room that day looks, okay, this student is a student. He has a list of who are the students that receive special ed services,
Okay.
and if it's getting up to 10 days, then a meeting will take place, and we try to sometimes. We try to curb that by maybe having other consequences in place instead of ISS. For example, so you were going to ask me, right?
I was going to ask you, yes.
At our school, we have what is called a tardy sweep program, and after 4 tardies, if you're late 4 tardies, then you are sent to ISS for 1 day. And that actually has been kind of effective. But in the past, we noticed that even our special ed students were being sent, and their days were being accumulated. So as the district, last year we got together, and the special ed department head, we got together, and we came up with different consequences for them. And one thing that we do, if you have 4 tardies or more, and you're a student who receives special ed services, you are sent to detention instead of ISS,
Okay.
lunch detention, which does not count against you as far as consequences, as far as placement, being out of instructional setting.
So how long do you have to be out of an instructional setting in a day for it to count against you? Is there a minimum number of hours, or
1 period is considered 1 day.
1 period?
So if you go half a day, 3 periods, 4 days, all that's considered 1 day.
Okay.
That has been cleared up.
Okay. But you can do lunch and that type of
Yeah,
stuff.
lunch.
Do special
Detention.
ed students respond well to that?
For the most part.
They do?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you would like to add? If you were talking to brand new special ed teachers, what would you want them to know?
Well, try to learn more about the special ed laws, and try to go to special ed trainings as well as 504, because 504 does not get funding like special ed does. So there's not too many trainings or emphasis on 504, but it is still in effect in the schools, and we need to follow those accommodations by a 504 student. Whenever he or she is a 504 student.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay, you're welcome.